All right, so looks like we got most of our familiar students here. That's great to see. So let's get started with today's class. As we normally do, we're going to start off with a little bit of vocab. We'll check out a couple new words and then a little creative writing assignment. After that, we're going to move on to our short story. A few questions there, a couple long answer questions. Let's try to get both long answer questions completed today, just because a little uh, we've been taking a little bit extra time with our writing so far. We only managed to do one. Let's try to aim to do both today. And after that, we got more writing exercises because we have a continuation of our expository writing lesson. So our vocab, we got our two words here. Let's go with Amy. Can you read this slide for us, please?
Palatable. Definition acceptable to the taste or mind. You can put up with it. Example, she had been lying in the semi-darkness, nursing this palatable sadness for half an hour when she heard the sound of the police car. Demise. Now, definition, the time when something ends, the event of dying or departure from life. Example, the wood from the tataba tree proved to be too hard and heavy, and its lack of buoyancy contributed to the canoe's demise.
All right. Nicely done. So these words are pronounced a little differently. The first one is palatable, and the second word is demise. Anyways, the first word is an adjective, and I don't know if you guys know, but your when you talk about your taste, your sense of taste, or your tongue, that is your palate. That is your flavor palate. That is where your interest lies. Like that's your palate. That's where the word palatable comes. It is talking about what is acceptable to your taste, what is acceptable to your preferences, to your mind. What is something that you deem as acceptable? You'll put up with it. So that's essentially what palatable means. In this example here, she had been lying in this semi-darkness, nursing this palatable sadness, meaning it is a type of sadness that she can put up with. It's not too severe, she can manage. Demise, this is a noun. This is the time frame or the event of something ending, something that is perhaps dying, something that's leaving, whatever it is the end of something. So in this example, they're talking about how the wood contributed to the canoe's demise, basically saying that the end of the canoe, the end of the canoe's life is due to the wood. Anyways, those are two words that we're going to check out. I want you guys to write a short paragraph, around 4 to 6 sentences. Get at least 4 sentences here. And you're going to be writing about the following topic. Create a story about someone who learned to forgive a person who hurt them. So that is what you're writing about. And you're making sure that you use both vocab words in your answer. Let's try to aim for around 5 to 7 minutes to complete this. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. I'll put the prompt into the chat and the definitions on the screen. All right, so it's been around 7 minutes so far. I got one answer in. I'm gonna wait another minute or two to see if there's any more answers coming in. And by then, I'll take up whatever I see. All right, so let's take up some of the answers that we got, or just one of the answers. Oh, we got two answers. All right, Nathan, can you read your answer for us, please?
When Jimmy visited the graveyard of his dog, he realizes that he couldn't always blame his friend Bob about it and needs to let it go. Back a decade ago, Jimmy and his dog were playing catch with the tennis ball. However, the ball got to the middle of the street, and unfortunately, Bob drove his car over him to his demise. Between them and now, Jimmy and Bob were living in their lives with palatable depression. After after Jimmy exited the graveyard, Bob rushed towards him, but with a gift. Next to him was an adopted dog for Jimmy, just like his old one. Jimmy forgave him, and they'll continue their lives as friends.
All right, excellent job right here. So the use of palatable and demise are both used perfectly. I really like the use of palatable, talking about palatable depression. It's a very appropriate way to describe it, so very well done. And I really like how you kind of build your story. You start off kind of with like a present day moment, and then you say what happened back in the day. So very interesting, creative writing style. Let's proofread this. So when Jimmy visited the graveyard of his dog, he realizes that he couldn't always blame his friend Bob about what he needs to let go about it and needs to let it go. Nicely done. So back a decade ago, this phrase is a little awkward. It makes sense though. It's slightly awkward. I think when you read it out loud, it sounds okay. But yeah, I'll leave it as it is. Jimmy and his dog were playing catch with the tennis ball. However, the ball got to the middle of the street, and unfortunately, Bob drove his car over him to his demise. Bob drove his car over. So I don't want to say his a bunch of times simply because there's two characters in this scene, Jimmy and his dog. So I want to change this one. Bob drove his car over, we'll say Jimmy's dog, to his demise. Between then and now, Jimmy and Bob were living their lives with palatable depression. After Jimmy exited the graveyard, Bob rushed towards him, but with a gift. Next to him was an adopted dog for Jimmy, just like his old one. Jimmy forgave him, and they continued to live their lives as friends. Excellent. Very well written. Very minor corrections I can make here, only one correction, so excellent job. Let's move on. We got Austin. All right, Austin, can you read your answer for us, please?
In a small village, Amina struggled to forgive her childhood friend, Malik, who had betrayed her trust, leaving her heart heavy with resentment. One day, while tending to her garden, she discovered a palatable fruit that reminded her of their joyful days together, sparking memories of laughter and shared dreams. As she savored the sweetness, Amina realized that holding onto anger was like nurturing a demise within herself, stunting her own growth. Determined to heal, she thought she sought out Malik, embracing the power of forgiveness, and found that letting go not only restored their friendship but also freed her spirit to flourish once more.
All right. So nicely done. Very well written. As you were reading, I didn't see any areas that we can correct. Let's see. We got palatable fruit, which makes sense because palatable can also be about actually the taste of something, so that makes sense. And demise, I feel like I saw it somewhere. Oh yeah. Okay, so Amina realized that holding on to anger was like nurturing a demise within herself. Nicely done. Austin, can you explain this phrase to me, please? This highlighted phrase.
Oh,
Austin, whenever you're ready, can you explain that highlighted phrase, please?
wait, what?
You see this phrase right here that I highlighted for you?
Yeah,
Can you explain that to me, please?
okay. So, nurturing with the mice with her. So nurturing is just how do you just want me to explain what it means or
Exactly. Yep. Quick, come on.
okay. Nurturing with the mice with her is just nurture like what she had like she's really like hurt and then heavy with her or like yeah, friendship. That's what I wrote.
All right. So not a great definition right there. Please try to provide your own writing with these exercises here. You don't have to provide like some kind of stellar, super advanced writing. As long as you use both words and as long as you talk about the topic, then you're good to go. The length, I've been very lenient about. If you submit 3 sentences, that's cool. If you submit 8 sentences, also cool. I don't mind how difficult your writing is, as long as you put both words in and you show an effort. It doesn't even have to be correct. Just show an effort and you're good to go. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, moving on. George, can you read your writing for us, please?
Yeah. At least the cementiveness of heirloom nursing a palpable sadness that had lingered silence her filling out with care. The patricio tone Kara had shared her deep secret, but the bitterness had begun to weigh on her like a heavy stone. She thought about her grandmother's words before her demise: "Forgiveness sealed for them is for you," and for the first time the idea seemed acceptable to her mind. Darling Carol's number, and Lynn felt her heart race as she heard Carol's tentative voice on the other end. She realized that the letting go of her anger would finally bring her peace.
All right, so Again, very well written piece right here. And so palatable. This whole sentence right here is very similar to the sentence that I provided. So it is, just try to switch it up. Try to use your own writing here. And also try to use your own writing because this seems a little too perfect. There are areas that you're stumbling on, and that's kind of rare if you're writing it yourself. So again, try to use your own writing. Don't refer to external resources. Let's move on here. Melinda, can you read your writing for us, please?
Sophia was really mad at her brother Lucas for taking money from her and never paying it back. She felt hurt and angry for years, but after their mom got sick, Sophia realized that holding onto the anger was only making her unhappy, so she decided to forgive Lucas. When they finally talked, Sophia told him she forgave him not because he deserved it, but because she wanted to feel better. It didn't fix everything, but it made Sophia feel lighter and free from the anger she had been carrying for so long.
All right, so nicely done. We were talking about the topic of forgiving somebody. So very well done in terms of building that story. Let me just proofread this real quick. So Sophia was really mad at her brother Lucas for taking money from her and never paying it back. She felt hurt and angry for years, but after their mom got sick, Sophia realized that holding on to the anger was only making her unhappy. So she decided to forgive Lucas. So what we could do here is, okay, yeah, this is fine. The only issue is because we're using so, it kind of blends in very closely with the previous sentence. If we use another more prominent transition word, it would stand out as its own separate sentence. So we can say something like therefore. Therefore is like it's a word that has more emphasis. So it's really clear that this is a new sentence. Therefore, she decided to forgive Lucas. When they finally talked, Sophia told him she forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because she wanted to feel better. It didn't fix everything, but it made Sophia feel lighter and free from the anger she had been carrying for so long. All right, so again, the topic is fine. We are missing our two vocab words, though. So missing our two vocab words. That is the point of the assignment. So please try to make sure we're reading the instructions. Besides that, though, very well written. Let's move on. All right, so we got a couple more answers. Guys, these answers, try to submit them a little sooner. Jason, can you read your answer, please?
A decade ago, Josh, a handsome young man, was hit by his classmate Tom in a supermarket. He was too embarrassed to call the police, for his face was dramatically disfigured. The two classmates, who used to be friends, haven't spoken a word since then. Years later, the class had a reunion party which Josh and Tom all participated in. Initially, they were nervous to see each other in the eye. They just kept eating the palatable food. Nevertheless, when they stood up to go out for first breath, they met and looked at each other and laughed. It is the laugh that totally forgive each other.
All right, very well done. Great job of building your story and adding a lot of backstory to each of these characters. I do see palatable, but I don't see demise here. Let me just proofread this. Maybe it'll pop up. A decade ago, Josh, a handsome young man, was hit by his classmate, Tom, in the supermarket. So this, we got to fix up a little bit. Classmate should be singular because it's just one classmate. And we got to put the commas around Tom. Another thing is we can actually end this sentence right here, and this can be the start of our next sentence. So he was too embarrassed to call a police. We can say call the police. where his face was dramatically disfigured. The two classmates who used to be friends haven't spoken a word since then. Years later, the class had a reunion party, which Josh and Tom all participated in. Instead of saying all, since it's only two characters, it would be more appropriate to simply say both, in which Josh and Tom both participated in. Initially, they were nervous to see each other in the eye. They just kept eating the palatable food. Initially, they were nervous to see each other in the eye. So they just kept eating the palatable food. Very nicely done. Great word choice right here. Nevertheless, when they stood up to go out for a fresh breath, they met and looked at each other and laughed. So this sentence can be combined with this sentence. So let's change that right here. Put a comma and lowercase. It is the laugh that totally forgave each other. It is the laugh that you can say that aided in totally forgiving each other. Okay, this and this. All right. Is the laugh that aided in totally forgiving each other. All right, very well done. But yeah, we are missing the second word, missing demise. But great job though, great writing nevertheless. We've got one last answer here. All right, Amy, can you read your answer, please?
A few months ago, best friends Mary and Jane were playing with the small handmade canoe they completed on class. Jane's canoe was delicate and beautiful, while Mary's was only palatable. Mary played with Jane's canoe over and over, not wanting to let go. However, she accidentally dropped it, leading to the canoe's demise. Jane took Mary's canoe and slammed it onto the floor. From then on, they weren't friends anymore. Yesterday, Jane was about to transfer to another school, so she forgave Mary and gave Mary a small, delicate canoe just like the old one.
All right, so excellent job with your answer right here. You stuck to the topic. You did a great job of providing character background and, through their actions and stuff. The only thing that I would suggest is because our example from our definition slide, the example used canoe, like it talked about the canoe's demise. I don't want to see the exact same phrasing again in your answer. So for next time, try to switch it up, try to be a little creative with your answer. Nevertheless, though, your answer here is very well written. Check this out. 2 months ago, best friends, comma, and a comma over here. Let's make that red too. We're playing with the small handmade canoe they completed in class. Jane's canoe was delicate and beautiful, while Mary's was only palatable. This use of palatable is excellent. It's a very creative way to talk about it. Very well done. Mary played with Jane's canoe over and over, not wanting to let go. However, she accidentally dropped it, leading to the canoe's demise. Jane took Mary's canoe and slammed it onto the floor. From then on, they weren't friends anymore. Yesterday, Jane was about to transfer to another school. So we should say when Jane was about to transfer, she forgave, past tense, forgave Mary and gave Mary a small, delicate canoe, just like the old one. All right, excellent job. Very impressive answer. Like I said, though, try to switch it up with the use of your vocab word, and also try to submit this a little sooner, okay? Let's move on. We're going to check out our short story now. Let's go with Nathan. Can you read this first slide?
In a secluded corner of the countryside, there stood a sprawling mansion surrounded by a peculiar garden made entirely of glass. Glass rose shimmered under the sunlight, their crystalline petals casting rainbow hues across the grounds. Birds carved from glass perched on trees with gleaming leaves, while a glass fountain in the center trickled with water as clear as the sky. No one in the nearby villages dared to enter the estate, for they whispered of a curse. It was said that anyone who stepped into the garden would find themselves trapped within the mansion's walls forever. Despite the warnings, Amelia, an ambitious writer seeking inspiration, decided to visit the estate. Her curiosity burned brighter than her fear, and she convinced herself that the stories were merely folklore. As she stepped through the iron gate, she marveled at the beauty of the garden. The air was unnervingly still, and her own reflection stared back at her from every angle, distorted in the countless glass surfaces. This is art, she thought, not sorcery. She ventured deeper, her footsteps echoing against the pristine walkway.
All right, nicely done. And let's continue here. Austin, can you read this slide, please?
At the heart of the garden, Amelia encountered a greenhouse built entirely of frosted glass. Inside, the temperature dropped sharply, and the plants appeared alive. Though their stems and leaves were translucent, as she touched one, a soft voice echoed behind her. "You shouldn't be here." Startled, Amelia turned to see an old man with eyes like shards of glass. He introduced himself as Elias, the keeper of the garden, and warned her to leave. But Amelia pressed him for answers. Elias explained that the garden was alive, but not in the way one might think. "This garden reflects the soul of whoever enters," he said. "It reveals their truths, their desires, and their fears." He showed her rose. She showed her a rose that had grown dull and cracked, a reflection, he claimed, of a visitor consumed by guilt. When Amelia looked closer, she saw her own face in its petals, fractured and trembling. Uneasy but skeptical, she laughed it off. "A writer must face her truths," she replied, her tone steady despite her unease.
All right, great job. And let's go with George. Can you read this slide, please?
Yeah. As night fell, the garden transformed. The glass plants glowed softly, illuminating paths that twisted her endlessly. Amelia tried to leave, but the inside flowed here. The once clear glass now appeared clouded, and the colorful reflections grew dim. Panic gripped her as she realized she was lost. In her desperation, she called out to Alia, but the only response was the melody of the glass floating. Each note seemed to parrot her thoughts, reminding her of the fears and insecurities she had dug deep. Finally, Amelia stumbled upon a mule tree, its branches lined with shards of reflected glass. Each shard displayed a sense from her life, a choice made, a past taken, and a moment lost. One sense showed her turning away from her family to pursue her writing, while another revealed the joy she had ignored in her relentless ambition. Turning veiled in her eyes, and the truth of her reflection struck him. "This is my price," she whispered, "the price of my trust."
All right, very nicely done. And the final slide, Melinda, can you read this slide, please?
As dawn broke, Amelia found herself back at the iron gate, the garden behind her, eerie silent. She turned to see Ilias watching from the distance. Your face, your truth, and survive, he said softly. Amelia nodded, her heart heavy yet resolute. The garden had changed her, not by trapping her, but by forcing her to confront herself. She left the estate, vowing never to return, yet she carried the lessons of Glass Garden within her forever.
All right, very well done. So that is the end of that short story. Let's check out a few questions here. So what first draws Amelia to the glass garden? All right, so I got one answer here. Let's see if any more. Okay, we got two answers, and they're both saying option A. Sounds good to me. It's beauty and mystery is absolutely correct. All right, moving on. What does the garden symbolize in the story? All right, so we've got a mix of answers here. So looks like we got either C or B. So B says the fragility of human relationships. C, the reflection of one's inner self. So I think in this case, there was a lot of reflecting upon oneself. I think C is the most appropriate answer. Let's move on. What is the significance of the mirror tree? All right, excellent. So we got a few answers, all saying option B, which is perfect. It reveals Amelia's choices and their consequences. Excellent. Last question. How does the author create tension in the story? All right, very well done. We got a couple answers here, both saying D, which is correct. All the above. All of those options are correct. All right, so let's see if we can tackle both questions here. Just focus on question one for now. It says, discuss how the garden reflects Amelia's inner self. What truths does she confront during her journey? So we're only doing question one for now. I will post the short story into the chat. And if anyone has any questions, you can let me know. Actually, wait, I'll leave the question on the screen. But yeah, the story will be coming in. All right, so I got one answer here so far. I'm going to take up this answer. If any more answers come in, feel free to submit. But for now, Nathan, can you read your answer for us, please?
The garden shows many ways on how it reflected upon Amelia's inner self. For example, during the evening it became alive. Additionally to that, the garden showed a lot of memories of truths. One of them was when she chose writing over her family. This was one of the truths that she faced. It reflects the selfishness inside her. In conclusion, the garden reflected Amelia's inner self through the truths she faced during her journey.
All right, nicely done. So great job of providing a little bit of detail, like an example from the story. The garden shows many ways on how it reflected upon Amelia's inner self. Very clear and straight to the point topic sentence. Excellent job. For example, during the evening it became alive. Additionally, we don't have to say additionally to that. We can just say additionally. The garden showed a lot of memories of the truths. One of them was when she chose writing over her family. This was one of the truths that she faced. It reflects the selfishness inside her. All right, excellent point. So this is what we wanted to focus on. We wanted to talk more so on the emotional side of things, how she reacted to it. That kind of answer is what we're looking for. So we did provide a good quote, or not a quote, an action, but we provided very minimal explanation. So try to back it up a little bit more for next time. There's a lot of fluff in this answer. This highlighted part is the important stuff. We want to extend that a little bit further. In conclusion, the garden reflected Amelia's inner self through the truths she faced during the journey. All right, nicely done. That should be a period at the end. All right, so let's move on. Got a couple more answers. Okay, Jason, can you read your answer, please?
The garden reflects Amelia's inner self by showing her life choices. For instance, turning away from her family to pursue her writing, her ambitions, and so on. Despite the lifelong choices she made was difficult for her to accept. Instead of escaping from it, she bravely faced the truth herself. It is her growth.
All right. So great job of also including the part about her choosing writing over family. Despite the long life choices, she made a different. All right. So we have to add a little bit more detail as to like what kind of emotions she's feeling. So you say that she had experienced growth, but try to discuss what did she grow from? What was the initial stage and what is the current stage? That way you can actually explain what growth occurred. So let's proofread this. The garden reflects Amelia's inner self by showing her life choices. I'll put a period here and capital here. For instance, turning away from her family to pursue her writing. Instead of saying her ambitions, we can say chasing. Let's say that. Chasing her ambitions and so on. Despite the lifelong choices she made were difficult for her to accept. Instead of saying was difficult, we can say despite the choices being difficult. For her to accept, despite the lifelong choices she made being difficult for her to accept, instead of escaping from it, she bravely faced the truth herself. All right, makes sense, sounds good. It is her growth. It shows her growth. All right, so again, try to add some details about her emotions, her reactions, but otherwise, very solid answer. Let's check out a couple more answers we got here. Amy, can you read your answer for us, please?
Amelia encountered a lot of truth during the story. First, she understood the garden was alive. Then, she knew that the mysterious garden reflects the soul of anyone who enters the garden. The last truth she confronted during her journey was her choices some time ago. The magical trees, every leaf reflected a choice that Amelia had made. It reflected Amelia's life, her feelings, and almost everything about hers in itself.
All right. Very well done. So we added a bit more detail besides the part about her choosing her journey and stuff. So Amelia encountered a lot of truth during the story. Okay, yeah, story's fine. We can also say journey. Journey would make sense too. First, she understood the garden was alive. Then she knew that the mysterious garden reflects, so it should be reflected. It's a different word. Reflected the soul of anyone who enters the garden. The last truth she confronted during her journey, were was her choices some time ago. Were her choices. The last truth she confronted during her journey were, so it should be were. Whoops. The magical trees, every leaf reflected a choice that Amelia had made. All right, makes sense. It reflected Amelia's life, her feelings, and almost everything about her inner self. 2 words? Okay, never mind. All right, excellent job. Similarly, though, again, try to be a bit more in tune with what emotions she was dealing with. Because we are trying to talk about her inner self. Like, whenever we're talking about anyone's inner self, we're referring to their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their reactions, that kind of stuff. Let's move on. George, can you read your answer, please? George, whenever you're ready, can you read your answer?
Yeah. The garden reflects the meaning and yourself by mirroring emotions, choices, and bringing truth to its fragile and reflective nature. The shining glasses and structured reflections simulate her ambition, which, while beautiful and enduring, also insulates her from the connection and joys she once segment. Through this journey, Emilia realized that her apparition not the garden but the result of her own choices, and she enters with a clear understanding of herself and resolve to embrace balance and connection in her life.
All right. Nicely written. So, pretty straightforward. We're talking about how the inner self is shown through her emotions, her choices, anything that she's hidden, that is finally coming to the forefront. With this answer, George, please try to use your own writing. Try not to refer to any external resources. Let's move on. We've got one more answer. All right, Melinda, can you read your answer, please?
The garden reflects Amelia's inner self by revealing her all of her fears and desire. She is forced to confront her guilt by the cracked rose with her face in its petal. As she goes further into the garden reveals her reflections of her past choice. The garden became one of her emotional prisms. By the end of her journey, Amelia faces these truths and leaves the garden.
All right, nicely done. Yeah, so very well done. describing that she is having to face her fears and her desires and all that kind of stuff, and talking about guilt as well. So this is an excellent emotion to mention as well. So the garden reflects Amelia's inner self by revealing, you can either say revealing all of her fears or revealing to her all of her fears. I'm just going to take out this word here, revealing all of her fears and desires. And it should be plural. Whoops, wrong color. All right, she is forced, should be past tense, to confront her guilt by the cracked rose with her face in its petals. All right, yep, that makes sense. As she goes further into the garden reveals her reflections of her past choices. The garden became one of her emotional prisons. The garden became one of her emotional prisons. Not entirely sure what we're saying here. We can change this to something like became that of an emotional prison. By the end of her journey, Amelia faces these truths and leaves the garden. All right, solid answer. We're talking about fears, desires, guilt. Nicely done. If we can back it up with like a specific moment in the story, that'd be great. Otherwise, those solid answer for sure. So I don't think we have too much time left for the other questions. So let's just move on to our lesson plan. So as we've been doing for a few weeks now, we've been talking about expository writing. Essentially, this is the writing style that is very informative, very straightforward, very much a detailed answer. So these, writing styles, this one is something that really forces you to explain thoroughly, explain in a very specific and detailed manner. So that's what we want to practice with this first exercise here. This exercise is to practice your ability to write strong arguments with detailed explanation. So read the following topic, and all you got to do is provide 1 to 2 arguments with thorough explanation. So essentially, you do not have to put a topic sentence. You do not have to put a conclusion. You only have to do this right here. Argument 1, explanation, and argument 2, and explanation if you have one. So try to aim for that. Try to aim for argument 2. But if you get just this part, argument 1 and explanation, that's fine. Try to aim for both. So your answer should be, shouldn't be 5 to 8 sentences. Should be like 3 to 5, maybe. All right, so you're talking about this topic here, and this is your requirement. You have to submit 3 to 5 sentences, and you only have to include these details. So if there are any questions, please let me know. Try your best, and we'll take it up whenever you're ready. All right, so I got a couple answers here. Let's take those up.
Teacher, could you don't answer, don't give my answer because I kind of got it wrong. I'm still writing.
Oh, yeah, no problem. You can continue writing. You can just submit the completion of your answer after. I'm
Yes.
still going to take up the first answer though. Nathan?
Okay.
Yep. Nathan, can you read your answer, please?
For example, because of global warming, all of the ice is melting. When there's a ton of melting, that means the sea level rises, leaving a huge impact on aquatic life, leaving more room for the habitats. Plus, when the ice melts, then the Arctic life would be changed in population as there would be no room for them. Another example of climate change impacting wildlife is because of the bad toxins in the air. For example, when the ice is melting more and more, there would be more carbon dioxide and methane released into the air. This endangers the species of wildlife.
All right. Very well done. So in terms of stating your argument, they're both very clear and very different from each other, which is excellent. That's what we want to see. Let's see, all the ice is melting, so this is 1 point. And the toxins in the air, that's another point. So two very different things, but two things that you can go deeply into, which you did, provided real life examples. Let's proofread this. For example, because of global warming, all the ice is melting. When there is a ton of melting, so the phrasing here is a little informal. We can say when significant melting occurs, and we'll just take this part out. Whoops. All right. When significant melting occurs, that means the sea level rises, leaving a huge impact in the aquatic life. And instead of saying leaving again, let's say thus also leaving more room for the habitat. All right. Plus, when the ice melts, then the Arctic life would be changed in population as there will be no room for them. We don't have to say then here. When the ice melts, the Arctic life would be changed in population. So instead of saying would be changed in population, say, like define whether it's going to increase or decrease. Well, it's going to decrease. So the Arctic life would decrease in population. As there will be no room for them. Another example of climate change impacting wildlife is because of the bad toxins in the air. For example, when the ice is melting more and more, there will be more carbon dioxide and methane released into the air. This endangers the species of wildlife. Nicely done. Very well done and very factual information. Let's move on. So I didn't get Jason's answer yet. Let's see. Let's continue with the other answer instead. George, could you read your answer for us, please?
Yeah, climate change has significant impact on wildlife population by altering habits and disrupting food chains, raising temperature and habitat loss, such as melting polar ice force species like polar bears to migrate or face extinction. Additionally, shifting weather patterns disrupts ecosystems, leaving many species unable to adapt quickly enough. changing food chains, furthering wildlife as warms water, reducing fish population, affecting predators like seabirds and marine mammals. This description highlights the crucial threat climate change poses to biodiversity.
All right, so nicely done. Very much in line with your previous answers, George. Please try to submit your own writing. You are mispronouncing and stumbling a lot of these words here, and I'm not too sure if you're familiar with these words, but you're using them correctly, so it's a little odd to see. So again, try to submit your own writing. In terms of what is submitted, technically it is correct. You provided two different arguments and backed it up with real life examples. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Just make sure it's your own writing for next time. All right. Amy, can you read your answer for us, please?
The impact of climate change on wildlife populations is huge. In about 40 years of time, wildlife populations dramatically declined of 69% on average. This is because climate change affects a lot of things, including food availability, quality, and diversity, leading to wild animals population decrease. Climate change also affects animals' behavior. Temperature change will turn some places more warm, letting the animals who lived there before change habitats.
All right. So the impact of climate change on wildlife populations is huge. In about 40 years of time. So if you just said 40 years, that's fine. You don't have to include this part. So I'll just cross that out. In about 40 years, wildlife populations dramatically declined. All right, so are we saying 40 years into the future or the past 40 years?
I think the past 40 years.
All right, so let's change that up here. In the past 40 years, wildlife populations dramatically declined of 69% on average. Let's say experienced a dramatic decline of 69% on average. This is because climate change affects a lot of things, including food availability, quality. Quality makes sense. I don't know why it's underlined. We do need a comma here, though. And diversity leading to wildlife population decrease. Climate change also affects animals' behavior. Temperature change will turn some places more warm and letting the animals who lived there before change habitat. Letting the animals who lived happen change habitats. All right, so we are kind of not on topic with the task that we're supposed to do. We don't really clearly state one or two arguments. It's kind of like you're writing your own paragraph here, which is, it's still a fine paragraph. It's just not what we're looking for. So try to make sure you're sticking on topic with the task of writing one or two arguments very clearly stated with evidence to back it up. You provided some evidence, which is great. You provided a little bit of detail, but it's very up in the air. It's very like random information. So make sure you organize your answer a little bit cleaner, but it's a solid start nonetheless. Let's check out another answer that we got here. Oh, another two answers. All right, Austin, can you read your answer for us, please?
Climate change has a significant impact on wildlife populations, primarily through habitat loss. As temperatures rise and weather patterns shift, many animals find it harder to survive in their natural environments. For example, polar bears depend on sea ice to hunt for seals, but as the ice melts due to warming temperatures, they struggle to find food. This threatens their survival as each species plays a role in maintaining balance. If these changes continue, we could see a decline in wildlife populations, which can lead to further problems for the environment and humans.
All right, so very well written. Excellent answer. A ton of detail, realistic detail, like real information that you're providing, which is great. We only have one argument, which is, again, fine, because if you wanted to do one, that's okay. Two, also okay. But you still completed what was assigned. Yeah, it's a very solid answer. I have no corrections. The writing style is great. If you did want to make any corrections, you can just add a second argument. That's about it. So very well done, Austin. Melinda, can you read your answer for us, please?
Climate change hurts wildlife in many ways. First, it destroys the place animal lives. For example, polar bears lose their home because the ice melts, and coral reefs are harmed by warmer oceans. Without these places, animals can't find food or safe spaces. Second, climate changes when animals migrate or have babies. Animals like birds or sea turtle depends on certain temperatures to know when to move or breed. But if the weather changes, they might be too early or too late, making it harder for them to survive.
All right, excellent answer right here. We have a topic sentence, which wasn't necessary, but it's fine to include. Climate change hurts wildlife in many ways. First, so just the simple act of using the word first is a very solid way to organize your details. So first, it destroys the animals. It destroys the animals live. So it destroys the animals' habitat. And animals should also have an apostrophe. Oh, sorry. It destroys the places animals live. Oh, okay. I didn't see the word places there. My bad. Your answer is actually just fine. For example, polar bears lose their homes because the ice melts, and coral reefs are harmed by warmer oceans. So this is kind of random. We're first talking about polar bears, and then we're talking about coral reefs. We can try to use like a transition phrase to clump them together a little bit easier. So that's what I'm going to do here. We can say, and similarly, coral reefs are also harmed. So these words right here really help tie in coral reefs being at harm with polar bears also being at harm. And I'll put a comma here too. And similarly, coral reefs are also harmed by warmer oceans. Without these places, animals can't find food or safe spaces. Second, great job. The climate change, let's take out this word. Climate changes when animals migrate. Climate change changes. Oh, okay. Because it's change and changes, obviously it's awkward. Instead of alters, actually, let's do interferes. Interferes with when animals migrate. Climate change interferes with the timing of animals migrating. All right, so climate change interferes with the timing of animals Actually no, migrating, take this out too, or have babies, we can say reproducing. Animals like birds or sea turtles depend on certain temperatures to know when to move or breed, but if the weather changes, they might be too early or too late, making it harder for them to thrive. Perfect. So your formatting is excellent. You clearly state your first argument, back it up with some real examples, clearly state your second one, back it up. So very solid formatting and organization. Just a little bit of changes here and there for your word choices, but yeah, sorry, Jason, were you saying something?
Yes, I had admit my answer, but I didn't know whether you have received it.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, let me check your answer too, forgot about that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, thanks for mentioning it. All right, Jason, can you read your answer, please?
Climate change will lead to the extinction of some wildlife animals. Since the rise of temperature, the distribution of animals has changed. Some animals, like elephants, started to go to the north since they couldn't bear the hot weather. If they can't find a proper territory, they may disappear from Earth forever. In addition, polar bears will extinct if the weather continues to become increasingly hot. The ice polar bears used to live on will melt unless food will be provided. As a consequence, they may extinct due to hunger and less territory.
All right, very well done. So climate change will lead to extinction of some wildlife animals. Since the rise of temperature, so let's say instead of since, let's say due to the rise of temperature, and let's say rise in temperature. I'll forgot to cross this out. The distribution of animals, plural, has changed. Some animals, like elephants, put a comma here. Some animals, pause, like elephants, pause, started to go to the north since they couldn't bear the hot weather. If they can't find a proper territory, they may disappear from Earth forever. In addition, polar bears will be extinct. So extinct is a noun. You have to put a verb here. Will be extinct if the weather continues to become increasingly hot. The ice polar bears used to live on. Okay, so let's say the ice caps that polar bears used to live on will melt, and less food they will be provided. And we can say they will be provided less food. And yeah, sure, let's just say that. They will be provided less food. Yep, sounds good. As a consequence, they may become extinct due to hunger and less territory. Instead of less territory, you could say decreased habitat. All right, so nicely done. So we have the extinction of wildlife animals. This should be plural, forgot to change that. Rise in temperature, the distribution of animals have changed. Some animals okay, so they go north, they can't find a property, okay. All right, yeah, so your 2 points here, they're a little hard to identify, but we got them moving around, having, forcing themselves to migrate elsewhere. And the other one, polar bears, simply they're losing their habitat because it's being melted. So this one's very specific about polar bears only, or Arctic animals only. The other one is open-ended. It can be about any animal moving. So they are kind of similar to each other. So as a note, try to make sure your arguments are not too similar to each other. But your answer so far seems to be pretty good because you described them differently, but it's fine. That is the end of our class today, though. We'll continue with this topic for next week. Great stuff, everyone. Great participation. I'll see you all next week. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.